Title: The Unwelcome Invasion. In a quiet suburban neighborhood, nestled between rows of well-kept lawns and meticulously trimmed hedges, the peaceful lives of homeowners were regularly disturbed by the drama surrounding the notorious couple Karen and Richard Cranium. The Craniums had a reputation that was as infamous as it was unsettling. Karen, with her overbearing attitude and constant complaints, was the heart of the neighborhood's HOA. Richard, her ever-present but largely silent partner, rarely spoke, but his actions or lack thereof spoke volumes. It started with minor disputes. Karen was the type who scrutinized every neighbor's property, from the color of a lawn chair to the placement of a garden gnome. The HOA was her domain, and anyone who didn't conform to her standards was met with her disdain. The residents tolerated her at first, avoiding confrontation, but it wasn't long before tensions began to rise. The Craniums' property bordered a piece of land that didn't belong to the HOA. The owners of the property, a couple named the Jamesons, had always been independent, fiercely protective of their land and adamant that they wouldn't allow HOA rules to extend beyond their own boundaries. This was a thorn in Karen's side. She'd often gaze over the fence, eyeing the land with a mix of envy and resentment. One summer afternoon, Karen took matters into her own hands. She began to leave notices on the Jamesons' door warning them that their unkempt garden violated HOA standards. The Jamesons, however, were unmoved. They refused to comply with any demands and sent Karen packing with a curt response, "Get off my land." But Karen didn't back down. She called in Richard, and together they began to invade the Jamesons' property, mowing the lawn without permission, trimming trees that weren't theirs to trim, and installing an obnoxiously large HOA-compliant sign at the boundary. Soon, the tension turned violent. One morning the Jamesons woke up to find their fence broken and several of their prized flower beds trampled. The damage was extensive, but it wasn't just the destruction of their property that infuriated them, it was the clear message of control and intimidation. They called the cops. The police arrived, but the Craniums were defiant. They claimed it was a misunderstanding, a mere accident during yard work. But the neighbors weren't buying it. Multiple reports of Karen's harassment and threats, along with Richard's often menacing presence, painted a troubling picture. The calls to the police grew frequent, disturbance after disturbance, with the Craniums at the center of every issue. The neighborhood was on edge. The HOA meetings became more heated, and every discussion seemed to revolve around how to deal with Karen. There were rumors of legal action. The Jamesons, fed up with the constant intrusion and property damage, hired a lawyer. A lawsuit for trespassing, harassment, and destruction of property was filed against the Craniums. In court, Karen's charm didn't win over the judge. The once confident HOA leader was now on the defensive, fumbling through her arguments while Richard remained silent, glaring at anyone who dared to speak against them. The angry judge, tired of the petty squabbles and the obvious misuse of power, ruled in favor of the Jamesons. The Craniums were ordered to pay for the damages and refrain from any further harassment. But Karen wasn't one to give up easily. The moment they left the courthouse, she muttered under her breath, "This isn't over." The Craniums became pariahs in the neighborhood. No one trusted them, and their HOA power, once feared, crumbled. It was clear to everyone that the real damage was not to property, it was the destruction of trust. In the end, the Jamesons' property was safe, but the lesson was harsh. Some people would go to great lengths to assert control, but property rights and personal boundaries should never be violated. And as for Karen and Richard Cranium, they might have been forced to pay for their actions, but in their minds they were still the victims in a world that refused to appreciate their hard work. Finn, did you like it, Addie? Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. It makes my crit so hard.